Hi, I'm Richard Hawes of the Billerica Historical Society. I'm the vice president, and I'm also with the Billerica Colonial Minutemen. And we're here at the Clara Sexton House for our first open house of the year. It's the first Monday of the month, but because this is April and it's so close to Patriots Day, we decided to push it back a little bit so we could combine both the Patriots Day celebration and our open house in one event. So we have members of the Billerica Colonial Minutemen here doing some reenacting. We're doing some cooking outside and some candle dipping. And we're showing people this beautiful house. We spent a lot of time in the last couple of years refurbishing the house through the generous grants of the CBC. And this house this year celebrates its 300th anniversary. It was originally built in 1723, the original part of the house, which puts it into the category of what they call a first period house. First period houses were from 1625 to 1725. So this house has, over the years, has had a lot of updating done to it. So we've got a lot of different things going on with this house, and we love to talk about it. And we love people to come see it and experience part of the life of the house. We'll be having a 300th anniversary celebration later in the year, and you'll probably hear some more about that. 2 years ago, we got the sum of money we needed to restore the outside of the house. So that kind of stimulated how we're going to do the inside. You know, let's get to work on the inside of the house. And this office over here, it was kind of filled with artifacts that didn't relate. It was just like almost like a storage area. So we said, let's take everything out, let's reimagine the house. So we reimagined the house because it was built in 1723, and we wanted to do different rooms as it went through the era from 1723 until basically 1936. The house in 36 was owned by Clara Sexton, which we named the house after. And she graciously donated, they had no heirs, and her and her husband died within a year of each other. And she graciously donated the house to the Historical Society. Now, the Historical Society itself has been chartered since 1896, so it's quite old. So this was a significant gift, and we try our best through a labor of love to keep it up and keep it going. So as I said, we reimagined the different rooms, and now we're in the oldest part of the house, which is the 18th century room. Now, very, very interesting artifact is what we have over here. This board has bullet holes in it.
Oh, yeah.
And now this goes back to the 1600s. In Billerica, there were two Indian attacks. There was one in 1692 and one in 1695. We believe this damage came from the 1695 attack, which was, and both of them occurred in North Billerica.
Okay.
The town ordered that there be 10 garrison houses built at that period of time. And the garrison house was a house that was built exceptionally strong. And it would be a place that the people in the town, if there was a warning of attack, they would collect there, and it would help them. It would establish a fighting position for them to fight back, and it would protect them from the attack. So this was, we don't know what section of wood it was. Somebody, luckily, saved this from, we think, the 1695 attack. Somebody saved it as a souvenir, and during the centennial celebration, there's a family in town, Farmers, one of the original families in town were the Farmers, and he had this, and he brought it out. They had a celebration of his property, and he brought this out as a display, and he had, obviously the family had saved this and kept it intact, and he brought it out, and that was kind of, it saw the first light of day in over 100 years, you know, so this goes back to before the country was formed. So that's a very important artifact that we have.
Everything in here, is this a collection of regional people that come to you and give you things, or things that you guys have collected over the years?
It's a combination of both. Sometimes people will come, they're cleaning their house out, or maybe the Historical Society would be interested in this. And in some cases, there's a piece that we might want to get to fill in for a part of the story, and we can see if we can get the money together to buy it, which we've done a couple times. So now the 18th century, so now we're through the Revolutionary War, and we've become a country, and the country is beginning to thrive socially and economically. And you can see over here in this section of the house, we call this we refer to it as the 1820s room, but this would be early 19th century.
Okay.
And you can see the difference in life and decoration has changed considerably.
Yes, yeah.
And it's a point now where people are taking more interest in their homes and they want to decorate it and they want to show it off. And that's kind of signified in this room by the stenciling on the wall.
Right.
The stenciling, by the way, is an authentic patent, a reproduction of a patent by Moses Eaton, who was an itinerant stenciler who went around and did this for a living, actually. And this is reverse painted glass is on this mirror and on the clock as well. And you can see the the upgrades in the furniture. I mean, you can compare the two rooms and you can see how the living has improved. Back before photography, about this time, about 1820s, 1830s, there'd also be itinerant painters, and one of the most famous ones lived in this town, Billerica. It was Rufus Porter. And Rufus Porter was a legal resident of Billerica from 1820 to 1843. His wife died, and she's buried down in the South Cemetery. But he started off by doing these portraits, and he traveled to people's houses, and people would want to have portraits of their child or their loved ones, a husband, wife, whatever. So some of them were just silhouettes.
Can you give this woman a tour too?
And this one here has got a little bit more style to it and color to it, which is very typical. We don't know who painted it. They never signed it. For all we know, this could be a Rufus Porter painting, but it's a miniature that was very popular at this time, and many people had these. After we go from the 1820s, we go in here into the early Victorian period. This room represents maybe around 1850-ish. And this is when the house itself is about the point where the house itself became Victorianized or modernized to fit in with the modern structures. Because if you look at the outside, it looks kind of like an 18th century house, but there's things about it that look a little different. One of them is this huge bay that was put in. The other are these long windows that were put in. And that upgraded the house to fit the contemporary style of the time. This is actually a melodeon. Okay, so this would be very appropriate for a period of the Victorian period. So there'd be a little more relaxation. People would have more time to enjoy themselves, sit at night, chat, work on hobbies, read. Lighting had improved. You see, this is very fancy compared to the rooms that we've been in previously. This is a flax wheel, as opposed to out in the first room, the 18th century room. It was for wool.
Yeah.
But a woman or the child could sit here with the flax wheel at night and do some spinning and engage in conversation with the rest of the family. It could be relaxing.
Is that a bed warmer?
This is a bed warmer. It would be filled with hot coals, and it brought up the bed, and on a freezing cold night, and you'd run it over the sheets and get them warm. This is a foot warmer, and these go back really to the 18th century, even before. And there'd be a box in here you'd fill full of hot coals, and you'd take this to church with you, because the church services were all day. And they'd have one in the morning and one in the afternoon, and you expected to attend both. And the churches weren't heated in the 18th century. This really reverts back more to the 18th century. You'd bring one of these with you to keep your pew warm, or you can put your feet on it and keep your foot warm. So it's basically called a foot warmer. This is the same thing, but a different style. There's a big stone in here. It's the same thing. You lay it in the hearth, you let it get very warm, you'd put it in that and carry that with you, and it would provide some warmth for a while. The fireplaces started becoming remodeled. It was more of the Rumford-style fireplace where the ends had more of an angle, and the backs were pushed in. It would generate more heat, and as I said, there was more time for hobbies and interests, and we're fortunate to have these. These are pages from a book that a woman in town. She went around and she collected samples of all the plants that were native to the area at the time, and she dried them and pressed them and created a book out of them. And she won first prize at the Massachusetts Horticultural Society, and she won the first prize with a total of $3 in 1894. But we're fortunate to have these are just some samples from the book. The book itself is quite thick. She really covered everything that was growing in this area. This desk in the corner belonged to Reverend Cummings. Tradition says that he actually made this desk at some point. We don't have any proof of that, but that's what tradition says. And Reverend Cummings was the minister in town who was, in the 18th century, he was really the most important person in the town, was the minister of the town. And he was very much a patriot. As General Gage in Boston said, he spewed rhetoric from the pulpit, you know, in regards to the freedom and independence of the United States. So he was a very, very important person in town, and we're fortunate to have his desk. And he was the minister of what's now the Unitarian Church. It was the first congregational church at the time. This chair is interesting. It has nothing to do directly with Billerica history, but it was given to the society by the Arlington, I believe, Historical Society. It had a set of 6 of these. And these were used by, his name just slipped my mind for a minute here. He was the vice president. He was one of the signers of the Declaration of Independence, and he was the vice president of the United States. Elbridge Gerry. And Elbridge Gerry's claim to fame was, real claim to fame, other than all the important work that he did, was he redefined the districts back during one of his races to get the votes that would be more advantageous to him. And the way the district came out, it looked like a salamander. So that's where the word gerrymandering came from. Even though his name is actually pronounced Gary, it really should be called gerrymandering, but it's gerrymandering. But that was named after Elbridge Gerry. And that term is still in use today. And this was one of his chairs. So, yeah, a little interesting artifact. This is very interesting. We can't wait to open it. This is a time capsule that was done 100 years ago this October. So it gets opened this October. And we have an idea of what's in here, but it's going to be very interesting to find out when we open it, the specifics of all the items that are in here. The one we know that's in there is one thing is I can't wait to see is that they asked some of the school children to write a paper about what they think life would be like 100 years later. And I can't wait to see that. This is another room of the same period as the parlor, but this is obviously the dining room. And they take all their meals in here. And as you can see, you know, the china, I mean, the refinery that's occurring now is much better than, you know, what we started with in the 18th century, even though time-wise it's not that far. These are the Faulkners. There's a Faulkner mill in North Billerica. So these are the Faulkners. Portraits were donated to the society. This is an original highboy. So it's a Sheraton highboy from 1790, that era. And this is I find this very touching. This statue was woman's taking oath. This is she would have been a Southerner after the Civil War. The citizens were required to retake an oath of their allegiance to the United States. And you can see there's a black child here, and there's a military officer who's giving her the oath to rejoin the citizenry of the United States. So that one little statue says a lot of different things, and it's, if you think about it, it's very emotional. I find it very interesting and emotional. Another fireplace. This is where the houses were built. Like I said, these would be the girt. You know, this would be the girt, the summer beam, and the girt going across the chimney girt going across the chimney. If you open the back of this door, you'll see what was the remnants of one of the original beehive ovens for the 18th century kitchen. It was all brick in here. So that fireplace was a little more expansive than what's shown there right now. But at least we have the remnants of it in there. And this is a picture by Barton of the Middlesex Canal. This is the pond that's up on North Billerica near the mills. Yes. And this was painted in 1825. And you can see one of the canal boats here. The the canal was 27 miles long. It went from the Merrimack River in Lowell all the way to Boston. And this was referred to as Summit Pond because this was the highest spot in the canal, and it provided all the water for the canal. So this is really a section of a dammed off section of the Concord River, which we still have today. Historically very significant. And one of the interesting features is what you see here is the floating towpath. They had to create a floating towpath because the horses towed the boats, and they had to get the horses and the boat across the pond to get to the north side of the canal. And that's what this was. This was, like I say, the guy's name was Barton, and he was either engaged or courting one of the Rogers sisters up on, lived on the brick ender that's up on Rogers Street. And supposedly he drew this looking out the second floor window of that house, or the Rogers house on Rogers Street. So this gives a good layout. I'm also associated with the Middlesex Canal, so this is especially interesting to me because it also gives more of an original layout of how the canal in that area looked before the mills were built. This house was the home and office of a succession of 6 different doctors through the medical doctors. And this would be their office. And the first one is Dr. Hill. We have his original nameplate above the door. And you can see that there's a list of the doctors that were here in the years that they practiced here. So this is one of the big things that we did, is we want to revert this back into a doctor's office. One of the members graciously drove out to the Midwest to get this table, an authentic table for the period. And we're still on the hunt for medical objects of the period to kind of fill this out a little more. One of these doctors, I'm not sure which one, but I think it was Dr. Hubbard. He was one of the first doctors in the country to think of psychological problems as a medical problem, like a medical problem. People before that, if you were crazy or considered crazy, you were just locked away. You were just shunned from society. And he said, well, no, it's really a medical problem. There can't be treatments for it. We can treat it. So he experimented. He even had patients live in this house here with him upstairs during that time. And it was very revolutionary. Now we're in the beginning of the 20th century. And this kitchen represents probably pretty much a state-of-the-art middle-class kitchen at the beginning of the 20th century. You can see the coal stove. We've replaced wood in fireplaces. That would have been pretty standard. There would have been a water heater here that received its heat from the stove as well, but there would have been a big copper water heater. Most houses have them. It probably would have been tucked into one of the corners. We now have the telephone, so you can communication is through electricity now. Is really in the modern age. The food would be prepared here, and over here we have a pantry where the extra dishes and food and whatnot would be stored just like people have pantry today. By the early 1900s, most of the items you needed for daily life would be purchased. You didn't make your own clothes necessarily. You may have a garden. You may can vegetables. I mean, that was still a very popular thing in the early part of the 20th century. But other than that, particularly this being a doctor's house, most of the things would have been purchased and would have made it a lot easier, a lot more comfortable, and been able to have some extra time for yourself. Welcome to the upstairs of the Clara Sexton house. This part of the house has been closed for many years, and we spent some time this winter refurbishing Clara Sexton's bedroom, and it looks probably a little bit, there's antiques in there, there's a mixture of antiques and stuff appropriate to the early 20th century, but it looks pretty much the way that she would have used it. So come on up. So this is the bedroom of Clara Sexton, and she lived in the house until she passed away in 1936 when it reverted to through her generosity, reverted to the Historical Society. And because of all the exterior renovations, and there had been some water leaks in the house and whatnot, we felt this wasn't really appropriate. So some of the members of the society spent some time this year refurbishing the room to get it to look acceptable and actually safe for people to come up here and visit it. So you're one of the first to get a look at the bedroom of Clara Sexton. You can actually think of it as somebody who lived here maybe in the early 20th century who appreciated old furniture. In the 1920s, there was a huge colonial revival. That's where a lot of the famous paintings from Wallace Nutting and furniture that he made to sell took over. So it would be quite plausible for somebody who, especially who liked history like Clara Sexton did, to want to fill their room with antiques and things that were older than whatever was in vogue at that period. This bed, in fact, the frame of the bed is from the 1830s. It would have been pretty much handmade. So yeah, there's bonnets that would be antique. Beneath the dresser there with the turned legs are some examples of some old ladies' boots, and the wooden item there is called a boot jack. There's a metal one and a wooden one. You put your foot on the back of the board, and you could put your foot between the two tines there and pull the boot off.
Is any of the furniture in here Clara Sexton stuff, or is it just?
I don't think it is because the house was pretty well cleaned out, and so most of this furniture was donated over the years, long before I was associated with the society. And most of it is quite old. You can see this chest on chest is quite a bit older than the mahogany dresser chest that's over there. But it's kind of an eclectic collection, but it all seems to go together. But you can see the beautiful gun stock posts in the corner. The carpenters weren't quite as adept at joining as it became later, so they'd need more material where all the beams came together. So they call it a gun stock post because for obvious reason that this back is, the top of it is wider than, and it tapers it down as it goes down. It looks like a gun stock. And that's one of the first things you look for when you date in an age of a house, because those gun stock posts were pretty much out of favor before the Revolutionary War. So you're going to get a sneak preview of the museum and the storage part of the barn. We have it finished to the point where we're beginning to bring in display cases, and there again the reconstruction on the inside of the barn was through the generosity of the CPC, and the display cases and the other stuff that we need to do to the interior of the barn is thanks to Mark Lombardo and the generosity from his office, and we appreciate it sincerely. So anyway, this is the first chance, so come on in. Welcome to the barn. This is going to be the new Museum of Billerica History, this floor. You can see some of the display cases we've recently got. They haven't even been unpacked yet, and we have some more on order. Plus we're also getting a TV screen, so we have some audio, visual, and visual representation. And the screen is interactive, so hopefully the future plan is to be able to fill it with reminiscences about Billerica history, and people can access that by pushing buttons on the screen. And so you can learn as much as you want or as little as you want about Billerica history, but it'd be a good sort of a time capsule to keep all our important events in and what people think about the town and its history. All the interior work, I guess, was done by a local contractor, Robert A. Scott, and he did a great job because this barn was in very poor shape, and it's amazing the difference that's been made within 6 months. And like I said, we have some more cases on order. We're going to have to start bringing some of our artifacts that are in storage out to fill the cases. We just don't want to throw everything in there. We want to do it in a sensible order and have the collections make sense and be more appropriate for viewing. So you can see we put in new lighting. The floors, all the barn board on the side is all new. There's a split system for climate. And we're very excited about this. It also allows us a small area to get together if we want so we don't disturb the main part, the antique part of the house. A lot of people have never been upstairs. So as you can see, that we've used the latest in insulation technology. It has a very high R value for the roof with the spray-in foam, which has been coated over with this gray. It's like a paint, but it's a fire-resistant material, which is required by code. But we still get to see the original beams of the barn. We have the shelving that will fit the different sizes of our archive boxes that we're getting. We have a large pile of archival boxes that they don't contain any acids, so they're safe for putting fabrics or anything you want to keep in them. They won't have any interaction with the objects. And this will eventually be probably a desk in here with a small office area where people can come up and work, because it will be cooler in here in the summertime. And over in this section of the room, we've established dividers, because we have a lot of portraits and paintings and whatnot that we want to store, and this will keep them in good order rather than just stacking them on top of one another. And so we're very excited about this addition to our property, and I will be able to use it in the future to save our history. Well, thank you very much for joining me in the tour of the property, and we'd love to see you all the first Sunday of the month through the summer and into the fall, and you can see all this for yourself and get a guided tour and ask all the questions you'd like. Thanks very much.